Hey everybody, we're back doing Frac Calc checkpoint 1. We just got done doing a video about how to use Scanner to parse apart your operand 1, your operator, and your operand 2. That was super fast. It had 4 lines and it was really neat and clean. Some people don't want to do that or don't know how to do that or don't trust themselves to use Scanner. So let's go over maybe 2 different strategies that I thought of manually parsing out this input. Okay, so the pace of this video will be a little bit fast. So let's, just as a disclaimer, you can pause and rewind, leave comments, whatever you need to do. But I will go a little bit quick because I only have 10 minutes to make these videos. So let's go over one way. Okay, now here's the idea that I was thinking of. You could just use substring. Okay, so let's say this is the input. Let's take the substring from the beginning until the first time we see a space. Store it. And then what we can do is just dump that part of it plus the space. And now we just have this. Go from 0 until when you see a space. Store it. Dump that plus the space after it, and then you just have the second operand after. Okay, so let's go ahead and code that then. So let's say string operand 1. But what I'm going to do here first, as before I forget, I don't want to actually destroy input. Did you see how I was deleting stuff? Maybe I want input. Maybe I want to keep that intact. So let me create a little temporary string temp that I can destroy and set it equal to input so that I can destroy it and it'll be fine. So operand 1 temp is the same thing as input for now. So operand 1 is going to be the substring from 0 until when I see a space. Now how do I do that? Substring from 0 to when I see a space. Well, it's temp.index of the space character. Okay. So far I have from 0 to when I see the space. And remember the way substring works, it grabs the first index that you mentioned, but it won't grab the second one. Inclusive on this side, exclusive on this side. So I only am taking the 3/4, and that's great. Now temp, I want you to destroy yourself a little bit. I want you to actually only be from here on now. So I want you to be the substring of yourself that begins right after the space. So how do I say that? It's temp. You are now the substring of yourself where you saw your first space, and 1 after that. Okay, so I'm beginning on the plus. Does that make sense? So now if I look, temp is now just this right here that I've highlighted. Okay, and then I'm basically the operator is going to be the same exact logic as before. Okay, and it's just only 1 character here, so maybe this is a little bit bulky logic for that, but that's okay. It's going to get it done. So temp, remember, it's a new thing now down here. It'll be from 0, which is right here, to when it sees a space, which is right here. And then we want to dump the rest. Okay, now temp, let's dump it again, which is kind of copy and paste that. So now temp is just 5/6. And if you see, we don't need to do any more work. We can just say, hey, operand 2, you're just what's left of temp. Oops, I forgot to declare it. And then let's just check to see if this works by returning operand 2. Okay, does that give me 5/6? Yes, it does. Let's make sure we got operand 1 correct. We should get 3/4. We do. Let's check to see if we got the operator. Oops. And we got the operator. So this is a cool way to do it, but maybe a little bit unreadable, right? But if you're familiar with substring, this is neat. No looping needed. Kind of cool. Okay, this is fine. You can totally substring it out. Again, this is kind of a disclaimer. Maybe if you did this with input, do you notice if I did this with input by the end of this process would be totally decimated. It would be reduced to whatever operand 2 was. So this way I leave input intact and I just kind of destroy temp, which is the same thing. Okay, well, that's one way to do it. Is it the best way? I don't know. You decide. Maybe a little bit unreadable. What do you think? Okay, so basically, none of these ways are the greatest. None of them are the worst. Let's just kind of go over another way, though. Okay, another way we could do it is just loop through the string while building a temporary string. And as soon as we run into a space or the end of the string, we start storing it where it needs to go. So let's create the variables that we want. Let's say operand 1. This is just another way to do it. Let's make these blank for now. And let's make, okay. You're going to see that some of this stuff is a little bit unnecessary. And this temp is going to be what I build along the way as I loop. Okay, let's build the loop then. Okay, I warned you this pace was going to be a little fast. So it's going to loop through the string all the way up until the end. Okay, and then there are two cases in which I want to add. So if I don't see a space, if I see a space, I want to kind of add something. So if inputs char at I happens to be a space, oops, there it is. So if the char happens to be a space, then I want to assign some stuff, depending on which one has not been assigned yet. Another case would be, because remember that last part doesn't end with a space, it could be the fact that we are at the case where I happens to be at the very end of the string. And here's how we say that. Okay, if we're not at a space, oops, else if, excuse me. Okay, if we're not at a space and we're not at the end, oh, this is going to be assigned operand 2. Passing. Okay, if we're not at a space or we're not at the end, then we must be in the middle of something, like in the middle of one of these. So we need to build on to the temporary string. So temp, you are now whatever we're looking at. Okay, so take a look, pause this if you need to look at it and understand it. So remember, there are two cases at which we're done building a little piece. We either run into a space, which is what operand 1 and operator end with, or we ran into the very end of the string. Okay, so let's go ahead and do these then. Well, if it's the case that operand 1 hasn't been assigned yet, it'll still look like this. Here's what we want to do. If operand 1 is that, we've built up a temporary string that would house, what operand 1 should be. Okay, and at the end of that, let's reset temp to be nothing at all. Okay, if that's not the case, because remember, eventually operand 1 is going to get filled, right? Then we're going to see another space. Operand 1 will not equal this anymore. And basically then what we must be looking at then is operand, the operator then. And temp gets stored as the empty string. Okay? Now what we want to do is, if we're at the very end of the string, is we want to include that last character, right? We're not going to get to this block. We would like to include the character and then assign the temporary variable, or assign operand 2 to be what temp is. Okay, so pause if you need to pause. I'll try to walk through this one time verbally, but I know I might run out of time pretty soon. Let's test this real quick before I start talking about it. And I want to return operand 2. Hopefully this works. So how about 3/4 plus 5/6? Okay, I get 5/6 back, and this is working. Operand 1, do we get this right? How about 3 1/2 minus 7/8? I get 3 1/2. Do I get the operator? Make sure all the logic works. 3 plus 7. I do. I get the plus. So this does work. Kind of bulky and nesty, don't you think? Kind of like brutal to kind of figure out. Anytime your stuff nests this far, like, get a little suspicious of it. So let's take a look. The idea with this is that we're going to build a temporary string as we crawl along the input. As long as we're not looking at a space or the end, we want to just keep adding the chars to that temporary string, and that's happening down here. If we do run into a space and operand 1 has not been assigned yet, then operand 1 now is temp, and then we'll start the temp over. If we do run into a space and operand 1 has already been filled, therefore not equaling this, we must be talking about the operator. And then finally, if it's not a space and we happen to be at the very last character, I want to just add that last character to temp and then assign operand 2 to the temp variable. Okay, so you decide which way you like. If you look back to the scanner video, doesn't that scanner way seem awful tempting now? So 2 different ways here of many dozens of ways that you could possibly parse this input manually. Hope you liked it. Happy coding. I'll see you guys soon.